Hey, college sports fans, we continue to look at the 2025 season as well as each position all time for Clemson. We're having a lot of fun with this. Hope you all are too. And today we're going to look at the linebackers. I'm Bill Zimmerman, and this is the Reign Supreme All-A podcast.
I'm Daniel Shirley. Bill, I feel like linebacker, if you say what's the best position group that Clemson's had in our lifetime, right? We're not talking before the 70s. I think linebacker might be the best position group Clemson's ever had. And I think that'll play out when you look at some of these names.
Yeah, it's funny. I think maybe because a lot of these guys didn't go on to big NFL things like some of the defensive tackles did that we talked about earlier. The notoriety isn't there. You know, you don't have the linebacker you, and especially nowadays with basically playing a 4-2-5, you've got that kind of safety linebacker hybrid on the field somewhere, whether he's at the nickel or whether he's lining up as more of a safety position. And we'll see how Tom Allen handles that this year. But
Right.
despite all the really good linebackers, and gosh, the ones right around our college years were just out of this world. It's hard to boil this down to, I think we've got 10 names on the screen, and it doesn't even include the all-time leading Clemson tackler, the guy with the big number. So we'll get into that. And then later into the episode, we will preview this year, Wade Woodaz, Sammy Brown, all those guys, a couple of newcomers, and a couple of familiar faces who have kind of been lurking in the background who are going to work their way onto the field this a little more hopefully this year with Tom Allen and new linebackers coach Ben Boulware as well as Tom Allen Jr. So let's go ahead though and get into those all-time names and just to reset everything, this isn't a hard and fast 1 through 10. We've kind of got like a group of six, if you will, to borrow that phrase, right? Guys who are all like really standout guys, and then we kind of got a final four again, if you will, like four guys again in no particular order among those four, but we've kind of separated it into tiers, I guess, and maybe down the road we'll do a V2 where we get a little more hard and fast with the rankings, bring in more opinions to kind of sort out how all that works. But let's go ahead and let's mention out of the gate one guy who isn't going to be on the screen here. That all-time leading tackler, Bubba Brown, who I am not very familiar with, but he closed out the 70s, 76 to 79, 515 all-time career tackles, just all over the field, it sounds like. What are your memories of Bubba Brown?
I remember Bubba Brown. I do.
Be sure to subscribe at youtube.com/Clemson Kickoff. It's free, it's the best place to catch all our episodes, and it's the best place for you to comment with your reactions.
I mean, those are the years where I first started going to Clemson games, and 75 was my first game, and he played 76 to 79. So, I do remember him, number 47, all over the place, making tackles left and right, and good player, right? Didn't go on to the pros and do a whole lot, right? So there's not this, like as the word used, notoriety. But if you're a Clemson fan and you were in the stadium in those years, which I was lucky enough to be, you remember Bubba Brown making a lot of tackles.
It's a miracle that you were able to go to those games since you're only 34 years old, same as me. So really impressive. So let's get into this list a little bit. We've got Ed McDaniel in there. I believe he was the Mr. Inside of the Mr. Inside and
Yep.
Mr. Outside in the early 90s there and late 80s. Another guy in that group, Wayne Simmons, just he was more that electric type, right? I think if I remember right, he had the big touchdown return at
At Florida
Tallahassee
State. Yeah.
to knock off the Seminoles, and boy, we that just gave us all reason to think that, oh gosh, who cares if they're coming in the ACC? That Clemson will still be on top. That didn't quite pan out, but what a game! And then I think Terry Allen at running back had a big long touchdown run in that game as well.
Yep.
You get
Yep.
into some of the more recent guys as well. Well, let's go back to one more old time guy. Johnny Rembert went on to a long career with the New England Patriots, so he's kind of an exception for this list, if you will. I remember him more as a Patriot at that age than as a Clemson guy, really. And again, that's just me being a victim of being raised down in Florida, and the TV setup back then isn't what it is now. You can't just fire up, ESPN, the Ocho, and find, every tiny little game from all over the country anymore. And let's face it, sometimes Clemson's playing those smaller opponents, whether they're inside or outside of the ACC. Explains the recent deal that Clemson is getting with the ACC for revenue distribution. And then sort of in between, you've got Anthony Simmons, late 90s. What a revelation he was for this program back then. He was a big time recruit, but boy did he come through in a serious way. Second highest tackles in a season in Clemson history, 178. That was during 1996. 488 career tackles. That is second all time to that Bubba Brown that you remember when you were negative however many years old and watching him
Negative
in the
20,
stadium.
right?
There you go. 52 tackles for loss for Anthony Simmons, fifth all time. Made the 50th ACC anniversary team, and then 18 and a half sacks. Anthony Simmons was truly all over the field, and not a lot of height, and that may have hampered his NFL impact. But boy, was he a leader on that defense when he was in Death Valley, the real Death
He
Valley.
was, and played on some bad teams, right? Do we want to say that? So maybe that hurts his case a little bit as well as far as being remembered. But again, somebody's got to make the tackles. And if nobody else is going to make the tackle, he made the tackle. And great player. Bill, I got to go back to Johnny Rembert. I mean, he was one of my dad's favorites.
Yeah,
I just remember being, 10, 11, 12 years old at that time, and my dad pointing out Johnny Rembert. Hey, remember this guy? Look at him. He's making all the tackles. He's all over the place. We know there's bigger names on the list, but Johnny Rembert's one that's going to jump out for me. We all look back on our 10, 11, 12, 13-year age and think, oh, those were the glory days, right? And you kind of romanticize those days. But Johnny Rembert was a fun player to watch for the Tigers and made a lot of big plays. So there's just so many names on this list at linebacker we're going to leave out, right?
yeah,
I mean, you even mentioned, Ed McDaniel. I mean, just kind of in passing there, Ed McDaniel was a great player.
yeah.
And think about that group of linebackers. And I know we'll talk about one in particular in a minute, but John Johnson, Doug Brewster. I mean, that whole group
Andy
was,
Hedden.
and Andy Hedden, played before them a little bit, but we were, that group when we were in college, it was just all over the place, right? Just making tackles. You mentioned Wayne Simmons. We talked about the defensive tackles and in that episode where you remember one play about a player, right? Or you remember one player by a play. Wayne Simmons picking off that swing pass and running down the Florida State sideline in front of their players with that ball in his left hand like it's an egg and going sprinting down the sideline. I think it was the Florida State sideline. If I'm remembering that part correctly. But him catching that swing pass that was meant for the back out of the backfield and running down the field, just holding the ball in one hand, I will never forget that play.
Yeah, yeah. In fact, I was at my cousin's house in Seneca for that game. We had a good old time watching that game with a bunch of his high school buddies. So
I will have
a
to
lot of
say
fun.
this. I was at home in Anderson watching that game, and my dad had ordered some pizzas from Little Caesar, and he's like, "Go get some pizzas." And I walked back in right before that play,
Wow.
and because I'm listening to the radio, Jim Phillips on the radio, and I walk in and then that play happens, and
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh my God, Wayne Simmons, I love you. I want to give you a big kiss and a hug and everything that goes along with." Bill, because remember too, that was the year after the Punt Ruski play.
Right.
And Clemson outplayed Florida State the entire second half of the Punt Ruski game and loses the game.
Yeah.
And I was in the stadium for that game, and it felt like Clemson's going to pull this out. They're going to win this game, and they lose. And that's all you heard about leading up to the next year's game. And Wayne Simmons makes that play, and it was just like Wayne Simmons will always go down as remembered by Clemson fans because of that one play in that one game.
Yeah. And he was a playmaker in the NFL. He bounced around a lot
Absolutely.
because he wasn't a very complete player by NFL standards, but in college, my goodness, what a talent. Let's go
Yeah.
ahead and get into that final four, if you will. And we're going to start out with Keith Adams. uh, kind of the next Anthony Simmons, if you will. But and of course, today's fans, we all know Keith Adams Jr., hoping that he's going to get into the running back mix and get a bunch of carries there. An absolute bowling ball of a running back, uh, kind of built like his father, stocky, strong.
Yeah.
I think Dad was faster on his feet, a little more fleet of foot. 379 tackles, and it doesn't jump out off the page. 23 sacks sure jumps off the page. 54 tackles for loss, and a two-time All-American. And just what he meant to the Tigers during that time, very similar to Simmons, a leader on that defense, and just felt like a really big clutch tackle guy to me, but also had some of those impact plays that could really change the way an offense approached what they wanted to do.
Yeah, that was a rough time for Clemson fans, right? I mean, as far as you look back at that 95, right after we graduated in 93, but that era, 95 to 2000 was like, ugh, not the best. But those two guys, and it was almost like Keith Adams took over for Anthony
Yeah,
Simmons, right?
right.
And if you watch his son play, you're seeing the way his dad played, right? His son is Dabo calls him Hammerhead. Well, that's the way Keith Adams Sr. played as well, but it was only on just on defense. And just a great, great player. Didn't have a whole lot of help, but had to make a lot of tackles because really at that time he might have been the best player on that defense. And just a tremendous player. And you kind of wish those kinds of guys had played a little bit before they did or a little bit after they did because they could have had some team success.
Yeah. I'm gonna back up to another guy who's kind of built in that cloth too, and it's Ben Boulware. He's on the screen. We didn't mention him though. Of course, he's back as a coach now. This will be his first year, as we mentioned. 352 tackles for Boulware with 26 tackles for loss and 8.5 sacks. Just absolutely big impact guy, and you hope he's going to make an impact on the players who will be on the field. He certainly at times looked like a coach on the field and an extension of Brent Venables. So we'll see what he can do. But let's get back into these last three names up here on the top. Connect with us on social media. That's at Clemson Kickoff. Whether you're on Twitter, Instagram, Blue Sky, or Facebook, you'll find us there. Isaiah Simmons comes up next. Again, no particular order, but my goodness, 253 tackles from 2017 to 2019, 10 and a half sacks. He tended to play more that sort of hybrid DB linebacker role. He really, I would say, perfected it better than anyone else at Clemson after he took it over from Dorian O'Daniel. But he still managed to get 28 and a half tackles for loss. He had 22 pass breakups. Just what a hybrid, and you heard the phrase Swiss Army knife a lot back then, and what he could do for Brent Venables, and it enabled so many guys on the field to move around differently because he could move around just anywhere you wanted him to.
As athletic as any Clemson linebacker we've ever seen, right?
Yep.
I mean, kind of like a Wayne Simmons kind of guy as far as
Mhm.
an athlete and a build and that kind of stuff. Great, great player. And I know you and I kind of talked about where do we put him, right? Is he a safety? Is he a linebacker? And it is a little bit of a different era. But I think he was a linebacker playing safety some of those times, but just a tremendous player, won a lot of games, right? Some of these other guys, Ben Boulware's on the list, right? Won a lot of games. What those guys meant as leaders, right? I think that you look at a Ben Boulware, you look at an Isaiah Simmons, yeah, great players, great talent, did the job, but leaders of the program. And I think those are, what people now will remember 15 years from now. Younger Clemson fans who were kind of like what we were in the 80s will remember an Isaiah Simmons and a Ben Boulware of, yeah, they were great players, but boy, what did they mean to this team and this program? And remember, even Isaiah Simmons wasn't even that big of a recruit.
Right.
He was
He was
just
a
kind
late
of a
signee that year.
late signee, and he's like, why are you signing this guy from the Midwest? I mean, what is he? We don't even know what he is. Is he a linebacker? Is he? And I remember Dabo Swinney on signing day saying he's just a football player. We'll find a spot for him because he's a football player. And they certainly did that. And those are the kinds of guys that you seem like that Brent Venables loved to work with the most.
For sure. I mean, that was an amazing crew. And again, when people freak out about, oh, we didn't get this guy in June, we didn't get this guy in May, when you look at that trio, I think they all kind of signed as DBs, but Simmons was able to bulk up and play that hybrid spot. When you look at Simmons, Kayvon Wallace, and Trayvon Mullen Jr., and those guys, I think they started recruiting them after TJ Green and Jerron Kearse decided to go pro, and suddenly you had holes and spots to fill. Uh, they turned out great, all three of those guys. So never worry so much about the early recruits who might turn you down. Let's go to one who was just absolutely standout. This final two, I think, was pretty clear cut to me. I mean, if you really really force the issue with me, I'd say this would be a final two in this particular case. But Levon Kirkland, my goodness. I mean, he had Wayne Simmons' athleticism and the ability to stop the run and that kind of intricate knowledge of wherever he needed to be. He was the Mr. Outside of Mr. Inside and Outside. He could have played inside if they had needed him to.
Right.
273 tackles is not a ton, but every one of them kind of shook the building, came with high speed or a lot of strength. 19 sacks, 40 tackles for loss, and Butkus finalist, which as I was doing my research for this, that is a phrase that didn't come up much, and I don't think I noted it on any of these other guys that I can find. So that tells you the respect that was out there nationally for what Levon Kirkland could do, and then went on to a heck of a Steelers career. But we're not even factoring that in.
No.
Just the impact he made at Clemson was outrageously good.
Couple of things about Levon Kirkland. It's funny you say he could play inside because he did play inside in the NFL
Yeah.
and bulked up, right? I mean, you see him in college versus NFL. I don't know that we've ever seen a body transformation like that. I mean, he was a big dude on the inside playing inside linebacker. Well, at Clemson, what was he, 225? And he's fast. He's on the outside, he's running and he's making tackles everywhere. He's rushing the passer. He had 19 career sacks as a linebacker. So, just a great, great player. Again, a great leader. What he meant to that group. That again, once again, we're talking about plays that we remember. Remember that hit he had on Major Harris in the Gator Bowl.
Yeah.
And I mean, Major Harris is kind of scrambling around and he rolls around out to the left and Levon Kirkland just popped him. And if you haven't seen it, go watch it because it's one of the biggest hits that I've ever seen in Clemson history. And, again, that's our freshman year in college, right? So we're kind of around these guys, uh, and remember them for what they did with that defense. So just a great, great player. I'll never forget the I think it was his senior year when they beat South Carolina in Columbia, and he didn't lose to South Carolina. I mean, especially in Columbia, they beat South Carolina both times in Columbia, and he was enjoying that on the field after the game. And so just to, as I will say, Bill, we talked about this before. If we do if we started ranking our favorite players ever at Clemson, he's in my top 5.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about that. And what he meant to that team and good teams. I mean, they were not great teams or they didn't live up to what they could have been as far as being in the national championship hunt and those kinds of things. But a lot of good memories of Levon Kirkland playing for the Tigers.
Absolutely. And just that he was the embodiment of that fierce tackling technique that you saw on the guys who were brought up by Bill Oliver, who was defensive coordinator under Danny
Yeah.
Ford. You could tell he had not just one, but two seasons working under Oliver. And do you remember who linebackers coach was back then? Because I think Oliver was DBs. Just
I
the
don't.
defense
I'd
had
have
a,
to look that up. Yeah.
yeah, but the defense just had a different manner about it than you see out of most defenses now. Uh, probably the most strength and athleticism and knowing where to be, the best combination of those three, that group of defenses right there around 89 and 90. So let's get into the final name on this list. Last but certainly not least, hey, check out our website, clemsonkickoff.com. It's got kickoff times, it's got archives of episodes and blogs, some offers. It's a simple resource for you. and certainly the most notes that I took. I mean, if I'm behind on research, which I am, it's because I had to sit here and write down so much about Jeff Davis. And look, I would put him near the top of this list based strictly on the work he does with Paul Journey. I'm very impressed with what he does, all the work that he has to coordinate to make sure that Clemson football players become great people as often as is possible. But from 1978 to 81, what Jeff Davis did on the football field was every bit as amazing. One of the leaders of that national championship team. He leads. I'll try to run through all the career bests that he is. First hits on guys with 295, forced fumbles with 10, fumble recoveries with 8. 3 times he had 20 or more tackles in a game, 20 or more tackles in a single game, 3 times. Uh, who does that, right? And he
Right.
had Andy Hedden alongside him, so it's not like he was the only option. Like that's just unbelievable to me. Tackles by a senior in a season, 175. Consecutive double-figure tackles in a game, leader 19 games with consecutive double-digit tackles posted. Third all-time in tackles with 469. That fits with everything we've all just mentioned. And he was a captain of that 1981 national championship team, and he's in the College Football Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I look, I mean, we're not ranking 1 to 10, 1 to whatever. He's one. I mean, I think we can say, yeah, Jeff Davis is the standard at which Clemson linebackers are judged. And on the field, as a leader, as a player, as a playmaker, as off the field, the way he led that team. Yeah, every Clemson linebacker is judged by Jeff Davis, and what he has done coming back with the Paul journey just takes that to another level, right? Because we know what he has meant to this program, helping these players become young men. But Bill, all of that stuff aside, he was a great football player.
Yeah,
He was a tremendous tackler. When he got his paws on you, you didn't get away from him,
right.
right? And I mean, how many Clemson players are in the College Football Hall of Fame? That's not that many. So we start talking about best linebacker, sure. We're talking about best Clemson players ever. And there's others, but Jeff Davis is in that discussion. Don't get that wrong. So, I mean, he's the standard uh, player, leader, maybe the best leader the program has ever had. And I think, man, you just kind of feel like for me at that time, I'm 7, 8, 9, 10 years old, that I was lucky enough to watch him play in person, and I mean, I gathering at the paw, I did that. I ran out on the field. I got wristbands. I got, towels and all that stuff. I'm sure I grabbed a towel from Jeff Davis at some point. I wish I knew where it was,
Yeah,
right? But I mean, just one of those guys where you go, what's a Clemson football player look like? It looks like that.
yeah. The judge. Did you say
Yep.
the linebacker all others are judged by? Well, that would have been fitting if you did. We'll have to go
He
back and
judged.
check the tape. So,
Yep.
what a list. I mean, just unbelievable. And we'll continue moving through positions all time as we do our season previews, which by the way, let's get into that. We've only got about 5 minutes left, so we'll try to run through it. Good thing they only put 2 on the field at a time, or we'd have a long list
Yes.
that we wouldn't
Yes.
get through. The starters, I expect them to be, as most people expect them to be, Wade Woodaz returning as the starter, and then Sammy Brown moving into a starting role. We got a little glimpse of what he could do with a lot of starter level time against South Carolina. Came off the field for who knows what reason in that fourth quarter. I think it was fateful. I think it was a part of what cost Clemson the game was not having Sammy Brown out there. And so now to see him moving into a starting role to me gives me a lot of confidence because we know what he can do. He's a heralded linebacker coming out of the state of Georgia. Wisely did not place himself in Athens and place himself in harm's way among his teammates on the city streets and elsewhere. And then you've got a couple of guys coming up behind. You've got Jeremiah Alexander, the transfer coming in, who will be I think kind of in that Sammy Brown role of 2024 as we watch what happens in 2025, he'll get a fair amount of tackles.
Yeah, I love what Alexander is going to help bring to this team. We talked about him in the previous episode as well. I can't wait to see what he is. We've heard what Ben Boulware has said about him, that he's as hard a worker as he's ever seen. But those top two, look, Woodaz has been a good player. I think he's going to elevate this year, kind of like Barrett Carter did last year. And
Yeah.
Sammy Brown, I still, in an honest moment, would love to hear from that coaching staff. Why was he not on the field at the end of the South Carolina game? Of, oh, we need more speed on the field. No, Sammy Brown needs to be on the field and in those key moments. So I think you'll see that. I hope we'll see some growth from D. Clayton
Yeah.
or Creighton. I'm sorry, not Clayton. Creighton. I hope we'll see some growth from Drew Woodaz. Jamal Anderson has been a solid special teams guy, but I think that top three rotation of Sammy Brown, Woodaz, and Jeremiah Alexander gives you at least something to start from, a good base. And I think as long as they stay healthy, I think that's a good base to build from.
Yeah, reading some good things about Creighton in the background, and he was that guy in that class. It was Creighton and Anderson who got signed in that same class. Creighton's been able to add some weight in ways that Anderson so far hasn't been able to. Anderson, I think, will find his way onto the field at some point. There's just too much athletic ability there for him not to. But if you're looking for like the four guys, if you're looking for the two deep, I think it's Brown and Woodaz up, topping that list with Alexander getting in a lot, Creighton mixing in to keep building that experience, get him familiar with what Tom Allen wants to do. And then the other wild card is Kobe McLeod coming back from injury. He's been on the field in some key moments. He's been trusted to handle some big time stretches of football games when there's been injury, when there's been whatever kind of attrition. So we'll see if he can jump back in there. And then I think the one freshman they brought in, Logan Anderson, probably more of a project kind of guy. Tough to get past those six names ahead of him, but certainly the ability is there, and you'd like to see the kid from Alabama get on the field here and there and get seasoned a little bit. So
Right.
Sammy Brown potentially the MVP of this defense? We've only got like 30 seconds.
Could be. Could be, especially if those guys up front do their jobs and open some holes for him to make some tackles.
Yeah, yeah, I wouldn't make him my highest name on a list of who might be defensive MVP. I think he's in the talk for that though, without doubt. So, look, I hope you're enjoying this. Just not a lot of 2025 linebacker talk we can have, so we kept that quick. But we hope that you like this format that we're doing, mixing the old with the new, and we will keep it going. I think we'll hit safeties next. So stay with us. We hope as the off season is now evolving into the preseason and the preseason hits high gear that you're really going to find these timely and enjoy these. So until our next episode of this Reign Supreme Always podcast, I'm Bill Zimmerman.
I'm Daniel Shirley. Go Tigers.